Brothers and sisters, today I'd like to talk to you about something that I've seen a number of times during the COVID-19 threat, and that is the over-reliance on medicine and over-reliance on governments to protect us. We have been given a government that has the mandate to protect and preserve life, and we have been given a really excellent medical system here in Canada, one that is paid for through our tax dollars to preserve lives, a medical system that is really better than the vast majority of countries around the world, something that we can be thankful for as a common grace. But when we have such a medical establishment, something that the church has not really enjoyed throughout most of her history, we can fall into the temptation to rely on medicine. We experienced some of this when Liam was in hospital and was experiencing a number of health crises, and we were invited to be a part of his daily rounds and to be engaged in that, and I sought to be informed as best I could and to be able to speak into the situation what my opinion was. Now we were listened to, but again, I'm not a doctor. I don't have the ability to understand human processes and symptoms like a doctor can, and so I need to a certain extent, to lean on their understanding and trust again that they've been given to us as a common grace. But my hope can't be in them. My hope has to be in God. Psalm 20 verse 7 says, "Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God." And so there has to be an intentional saying, okay, my trust can't be in those things. As good as our medical system is, I can't trust in that. I have to trust in the name of God instead. And similarly, Proverbs 21:31 says, "The horse is made ready for the day of battle, but victory belongs to the Lord." And so the situation, he's not saying there, don't prepare for battle. He's not saying that you can just leave your army behind and it's okay. We can just leave it with God. He's saying, no, the horse is made ready for the day of the battle, but ultimately the victory comes from God. And similarly, we could say that the doctor is trained to deal with health crises, but our protection ultimately comes from God. Our lives are in God's hands. He is sovereign over our lives. And again, as we think about the fact that our ultimate goal when it comes to our health and all of our lives is not to protect it. Our goal in all of life is ultimately to glorify God. And so yes, we should, as part of the sixth commandment, we need to seek to protect and preserve our lives, but that is not our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is glorifying God in so doing. And so if we fall into the trap of relying on medicine when it comes to things like the conflicting information that we're getting, it's going to really leave us anxious and confused. And that's true when it comes to COVID-19, and it can also be true when it comes to a personal health trial as well. I've seen how doctors, respected doctors, can come at things from a different angle. And even in this situation with COVID-19, we're seeing them even having conflicting ideas, and looking at the science in conflicting ways, and they're drawing contradictory conclusions. I'm realizing that even in medicine, that we all have our presuppositions, we all have our personal biases from our experience, and we're going to tend to look at things a certain way and draw our conclusions based on those presuppositions. And so again, our reliance can't be on doctors. It can't be on government advice based on what they're being told. Our reliance has to be on God. We also need to realize that because of eternity, that really, although we're not in a hurry to die, that eternity for the Christian is glorious and infinitely better than anything that you can experience in this life. And so when you have that kind of eternal perspective, you don't need to grab on and make your health and the protection of your health an idol. You can really leave it in God's hands and trust that He is sovereign and that He loves you and that He has a wise and perfect plan for your life. And so I hope that encourages you. I hope that it creates an opportunity for you just to examine yourself and your responses to what you're seeing, and to say, okay, am I falling into the ditch of relying on these external things rather than on the eternal God? Tomorrow I'm going to be dealing with the other side, and that's an over fearful response and being overly concerned about conspiracies and government control in light of the eternity and the omnipotence of God. The answer in both situations is the same. The answer is to trust in God. And Liam's board behind his bed in the hospital for those first 6 months after he was born. We had a little whiteboard, and we had a picture of a knight on a horse that Jane had drawn, and we had this verse, Psalm 33:22, as a comfort to us, and we hoped as a testimony to others as well. Let your steadfast love, O Lord, be upon us, even as we hope in you. And so it was a reminder for us that we needed to fix our hope and our focus on God, and at the same time, though, a prayer that God would protect and spare the life of our son. May God be your hope, and may your prayer be to God in the midst of COVID-19 and the midst of any health trial you are facing or will face.